Before colonial powers carved up Africa into sects, there were empires that commanded fear and respect in the hearts of the people, not through luck, but through sophistication, through strategy, and through strength, just brute strength. One of them was the Oyo Empire, the empire that ruled on thunder. The Oyo Empire rose in what is now the southwestern Nigeria in around the 1300s. And by the 1600s, it had become a powerhouse of politics, trade, and warfare. The Oyo Empire's armies were fed all through West Africa. Oyo's strength was not just in battle, it was also in business. It benefited the most from the savannah regions, which facilitated the movement of goods and contact with neighboring cities, neighboring states. And the empire controlled trade within that region, connecting the Sahara to Niger and to the Atlantic coast. Even the Europeans sought alliances with them. That was how powerful they were. And the alliances were not out of pity, it was out of necessity. And because Oyo stood between the coast, right, and the heart of Africa, there was nothing moved. No goods were moved without their say. That was how powerful they were. And this is the sad part of it. Because of how powerful they were, the Oyo Empire became the central facilitator of the Atlantic slave trade. And this contributed significantly to their wealth. Of course, they are trading human beings. I'll make you rich now. And by the 18th century, half of the slaves taken overseas came from the southern part of West Africa. This also includes the Benin Kingdom that we discussed earlier. But as the empire grew, so did corruption. As the empire grew, internal rivalries grew. As the empire grew, there was over-reliance on the slave trade profits. Because, you were making so much money, so they started relying on it so much. And then wars with neighboring states began to eat at the foundations of the Oyo Empire. So the army that once unified them became divided. And by the 1800s, civil war started crumbling the Oyo Empire, and then Fulani invasions, because the Fulanis were trying to expand their religion. Those invasions from the north crossed what remained of the Oyo Empire. And so that thunder that I mentioned earlier went silent. The Oyo Empire was proof that African civilizations were not primitive. They were complex, they were political, and they were organized. But it also reminds us that empires don't just die because of external enemies alone. They collapse when the inside stops holding it together. This is not a story about some Europeans coming to conquer your cities and your states and your kingdoms. They could not sustain themselves because of conflict. You see, strength without unity is just noise before silence. The Oyo Empire story isn't just history. It's a warning about what happens when a people forget what made them powerful. It was a political genius. But like many great civilizations, it fell, not from invasion, but from within. And Africa is still falling from within. So if you are listening and you become a leader, you do not sell out your people. As a leader, you stand by your people. Because these days we still have leaders who bow to external influences and sell out their people. It should not be so. That's why there's corruption everywhere. There's corruption everywhere. There's bloodshed, there's betrayal, and the economy is just crumbling and falling. You start wondering what's even going on. So please, if you become a leader, you should not sell out your people. Until next time.